Hi everyone, Rapper here. Today I'm going to be talking about my preparation for the Pauper Championships. This was recorded before the event, so I don't know what I'm going to do tournament-wise, like last place, first place, whatever. No, I don't know my results yet, but I want to talk about the history of the tournament in terms of how people qualified for it, as well as my preparations for it and what I'm going to be playing. So this is going to be a bit of a longer video. If you're not interested in that, then that's fine. This is mostly just to talk about the process that I went through, just kind of, give some tips and tricks for other people out there who might be going through this for something similar in the future. So without further ado, let's talk about what the tournament is. What is the Pauper Championship? Well, in Magic Online, there were four different uh, format playoffs. Technically, they up to five, so there were five different format playoffs. And a format playoff was basically an event in which you had to enter it using format points. You can see here, this is the format points for Pauper. There's legacy format points, vintage format points, etc. You could only get these if you did well in Elite, typically 5-0 or 4-1, or if you did well in a challenge. That was really the only two ways to get them. And you have to get 35 in order to enter a format playoff. Um, I got quite a bit of these points, so I was able to enter every format playoff. Although I believe I did not enter the last one because I just didn't have time. But I entered the first four, and I did well in the first two, and the last two I just kind of played a silly deck. I wasn't taking them too seriously. So in terms of this tournament, a format playoff was basically something you have to qualify for, and if you were able to play in it, your goal was to make top 8. If you made top 8 of one of these events, then that qualified you for the format championship, or in this case, the Pauper Championship. And I should also specify that if, let's say, I top 8 the first event, and then I top 8 the second event, I don't get two invitations. The invitation that would go to me is now handed down to the person in ninth place. And if there's two people who make top 8 twice, then in that event, their invitation would also go down to 10th place, right? Mine goes to ninth, theirs goes to 10th, etc. So since there's 5 events, and in each event 8 people qualify, there will be at most 40 people in the format championship for Pauper. Now, when I qualified in the very first event playing Tireless Tribe combo. This was a very different metagame for Pauper. If you look at the year 2019, there's been a lot of ups and downs for Pauper. We've had quite a bit of bans, way more than we've had in recent memory, so this has been kind of a bumpy year for Magic overall. But what had happened for me was at the time of my format playoff or the format playoff for Pauper that I entered, I was kind of in a rut because I didn't really know what to play, and the metagame at the time was a little bit skewed. It was basically Blue Black Delver versus Boris Monarch, and I didn't want to play Blue Black Delver because it wasn't really my cup of tea, and the Boris decks were just not really fun. Although, I guess I should clarify, I believe I misspoke. I think it was Boris Bully, not Boris Monarch, but regardless, it was Boris versus Blue Black Delver. That was the format. And the reason why Tribe Combo was good was because I was playing the iteration that was not all in on Tireless Tribe, but the version that also had access to cards like Seeker of the Way and Tethmo Cypress. These allowed for you to sort of grind people out, and it also sort of put them in a weird spot, and you got to play sort of like a Splinter Twin-esque deck, because if they want to heal your Seeker of the Way and put in removal on that, it might put them in a spot where they don't have removal to heal your Tireless Prime, and then you can combo heal them. Likewise, if they keep healing your Primes, you can just beat them down with Seeker of the Way and gain a ton of life in the process. So you gotta put them in a weird spot where they have to deal with multiple things, and you had access to Yash and Tatsy Probe, and you had a lot of really powerful stuff. So overall, that felt fairly reasonable, and because the traditional tripod mode were sort of dead because of Loop Like Delmer, people were not packing proper hate for it. There wasn't a lot of gut shots, and Loop Like Delmer actually was starting to cut snuff outs because it was bad in the mirror, and they were starting to just, play other forms of removal that was good for us because it means they're reducing the amount of hate that they have, and we'll be able to play around it and deal with it. So, because of me metagaming properly and realizing that tripod was good, I was able to top mate. I believe the prime list that I played was popularized by Birdman. I'm not sure if he took the idea from anyone else, but that's where I took it from. And he also top mated, and I believe we were the only two tripod mode people who entered that tournament that were on the priest version. And yeah, it was a great metagame haul, and I was able to do quite well. So that was sort of that era of Pauper. Then we had Dustman and all that. And then Astrolabe came into the format, and Astrolabe sort of took over, and then that eventually got banned. Although I feel like Ephemerate probably should have gone with it, but that's a discussion for another time. But now we're in an era where Dust is gone and Astrolabe is gone. So where's Pauper at now? Well, in my opinion, the current format sort of has four pillars. The pillars are Tron, the Mystic Sanctuary decks, the Monarch decks, and then the linear decks, Affinity, Stompy, Burn, Biles, Elves, you name it. That is sort of the Pauper format in a nutshell, in my opinion. And going into this tournament, that was sort of how I portrayed the format. It's a lot more complicated than the, Loop Like Elmer Boris Bully metagame that I initially qualified for. There's a lot going on, and so it's difficult to pinpoint the correct deck. So the first thing I did was try and look at data and see is there anything I can use to my advantage to see if there's a proper metagame deck. So what I did was I sort of figured out what people might be playing. So what I did was to put some green here. This is an Excel spreadsheet. I just took a snippet, or I guess a Google spreadsheet. But basically, I looked at all the players who were qualified for this tournament. I figured out what they are going to possibly be playing, and then I took an educated guess. The things in green, I'm 100% confident that people are going to be on them. The things in blue, I'm a little kind of iffy on, but I have a general idea. Some of these are pretty generic, like, if you look at, say, white net, that's not very specific, but, pestilence, more something like that. Some of these are not super specific, but it's the best I could come up with. And then there's about 13 unknown that I just have no idea. So it's not the best, but from talking with other players and doing some research on my own, the consensus is that Tron is going to be popular, and the Boros decks are also going to be popular, and then there's going to be a little bit of every form of linear decks. There's going to be Affinity, there's going to be Burn, there's going to be Elves, and there's going to be Bottles for sure. So we have a little bit of everything. And there's also going to be Stompy. So all of these nets here are going to be present in this tournament, 100%. And then Tron is going to be present, and Monarch is going to be present. The one thing I've noticed is that the Mystic Sanctuary nets, they are likely to be there, but they're not going to be as popular. But they are still going to be there. So there's going to be a little bit of everything, but it seems like Boros and Tron are going to be the most popular, if I had to take an educated guess. So that's sort of the metagame, and it's tricky because it's hard to find a deck that is good against Tron and is good against Monarch. It's difficult. I tried going into this tournament and preparing for it. I tried a little bit of everything. I tried a lot of Tron, a lot of different Mystic Sanctuary decks, the Delver versions, the Irmak Angler versions, the Fairies versions, you name it. And I also tried all the Monarch decks, Pestilence versions, the Boros versions, and then I tried pretty much every linear deck here. And I found that for the linear decks, they weren't my cup of tea because my decision trees were fairly limited, and against some of the matchups, I felt like if my opening hand wasn't good enough, or I mulliganed a little bit, and I had more of a weak draw, the game was not really in my control, and it was mostly just hoping that things go my way, and a lot of the time they just didn't. Or they did go my way as I had a nut draw, and it felt like I was just rolling dice. And I didn't really like that aspect of some of these decks, and I'm not trying to hate on them or fault them for anything, but they weren't really my cup of tea. You know, and now that I think about it, I feel like Bolt is too generic. I'm gonna go with Thermo. Thermo is more of a clearer creature. I don't know why that's bothering me, but we'll fix it. There we go. That more represents burn. So, I tried all these decks. They just weren't my cup of tea, and I thought, you know what, let's look into other areas. I tried some of the Monarch decks. The problem is, Tron is just a really bad matchup. You can beat Tron. I have done it. But, if they not draw, and they get Tron very quickly, and they just start going off with Ephemerate, you lose most of the time. You might have a 1% chance or something to blow them out with a burn or something, or they might, draw poorly and flood out, but the odds are just not in your favor, and I just don't think it's a good idea to be playing a Boros or Pestilence deck with Tron in the format. Tron is just very, very powerful, and what it does to Pauper is a little warping, to say the least, but it's just not my cup of tea, and I'm not really excited to play against it if I'm on one of these decks. So, I won't fault anyone for playing any of the Boros decks. I think they're fine decks and they're pretty cool, but Prodigy is rough. And people still play Relics and they still play, Graveyard 8 cards, and I just found that against Tron, it's just laughable. Tron typically can deal with a Relic here or there. It's not unbeatable, and if they really want to beat it, Tron can sideboard an Ancient Grudge and then just blow up your stuff when they need to. It's not really too difficult. So, with that being said, I kind of gave up on the Monarch decks. I'm not faulting them, they're just not for me. So that kind of left me with a couple options. Either I play Tron, or I play a Missile Sanctuary deck. Now, I tried a lot of different Sanctuary decks. I tried the Delver variants, Mono Blue Delver. I tried Blue Black Delver with Angler. I tried Blue Red Fairies. I tried Blue Red Fairies with Delvers. I tried, Blue White Familiars. And I'm going to talk about some of the issues I had with each of them. So, first off, the biggest problem with all of them is they are not great tempo decks. They are kind of slow. The problem is, cards like Tragic Lesson plus Missile Sanctuary is a really slow engine. Like, Tragic Lesson, Missile Sanctuary, hope to have that work, is incredibly slow, and it's very cumbersome at times, and also it blows you out. When I was on the Fairies version, the problem that I had was, when you had to get ahead on cards, and you were playing Tragic Lesson, 3 mana was a lot, and also you're only playing like 19 or 20 lands, so tapping out EOT to Tragic Lesson, or tapping down to only 1 counterspell, and sometimes let you get blown out. I've had games where I tap out, I have 1 counterspell up, and then my opponent plays a spell that's going to hurt me, or do something I don't want to. I counterspell, they Pyroblast or something, and then I get blown out. And it's like, sure, I do some cards, but I'm not in a great spot. So, Tragic Lesson, Missile Sanctuary, not my favorite engine. I also tried cards like Accumulated Knowledge, and then I was trying Think Twice and Deep Analysis. I tried a little bit of everything. The problem with Accumulated Knowledge is everyone is packing relics. Everyone has Bazooka Balls in the main board, and it's meant for Tron, but it hurts you more than it hurts Tron, and having that splash damage is really bad. And also just having your card draw become terrible is also a serious issue. So, I kinda gave up on Accumulated Knowledge. It was just too much Graveyard hate. And the other issue with Blue and Fairies, for me at least, was Boros was a terrible matchup. A lot of the Boros decks now are packing hate in the main board. I've seen Boros Bully with 2 Electrickeries in the main board. I have seen Boros Monarch with Electrickery and Serrated Arrows in the main board. it's rough, and it's not a matchup I would consider to be favorable. And if it's going to be one of the more popular archetypes, it's not a good idea to be, playing blue-red fairies, which you're going to get blown out by. So, I tried that, and also Tron was not super great. Like, Tron is sometimes ignoring what you were doing, and then you get blown out. So, Tron was a little rough, so I decided not to play blue-red fairies. Likewise, I tried Mono Blue Delver. It was way worse than Blue and Fairies because Boros was even more difficult, so I kind of gave up on that one. And then I tried Blue Black Delver, which is not a terrible archetype, but the problem is that if you don't have a threat like turn 1, like if you do not have a turn 1 Delver, you are tremendously more slow. Some of the draws that Net has are just really horrific, and you're not going to beat some of the nut draws that other nets are going to have. And I just found that relying on an early threat and hoping to have it stick around and beat down with counterspell backup is not always reliable. It can happen, but it's difficult, and it's not something I'm a fan of. And also, you just didn't always beat Tron, which was frustrating. Like, sometimes you went turn 1 Delver against Tron, and Tron still beat you, and there was nothing you could do, and that felt awful. So, yeah. With that being said, the only option left is Tron, and this is likely going to be one of, if not the most popular archetypes in the field. And I do not enjoy playing Tron, because Tron is rather stale, in my opinion, and the game patterns are very boring, and a lot of the times, when you win, you just had the nuts, and there was nothing your opponent could do, and when you lose, you got killed by turn 3 or turn 4, and there was nothing you could have done. Or you got a little unlucky and never found Tron in, like, the top half of your deck. But it felt a lot like rolling dice, and it just wasn't my cup of tea. And also, the mirror is rather atrocious. In the mirror, what you are basically doing is, the Tron mirror is just whoever draws better wins. That's about it. You have cards like Ultimate's Crusher in the sideboard to help, get free wins that you plan on turn 4 and they don't have an entry, you basically win. But it's not really enjoyable. And the mirror is just atrocious. And when I found, and I'm just going to be honest, when I was playing all of the top decks, it was kind of burning me out of Pauper a little bit, because I found that a lot of these decks have really similar game plans. So, for example, Tron is all about getting Ghostly Flicker and Ephemerate online to loop against your opponent and slowly kill them. The Mystic Sanctuary decks are also about killing your opponent while also having a loop, either with Tragic Lesson or Deprive or whatever, but Mystic Sanctuary is the engine. You also have Monarch, which is kind of similar. It's about getting the Monarch online, which is sort of a pseudo loop, and just drawing an extra card every turn while one-for-one-ing your opponent until they die. The Monarch mirrors are, in my opinion, quite atrocious, but I feel like I've been complaining too much, so I'll leave it at that. And the linear decks are just, these three are all about getting some sort of engine or loop online, and then the linear decks are just about hoping you can kill your opponent quick enough before what they're doing matters. And when I was playing all of these decks and preparing, it was really burning me out of Pauper, because I found that when I was trying to be really competitive, the options are limited. And one of the things that I enjoyed about Pauper was just being able to make a brew and have fun. And sure, I might not win a tournament, although I have done that before, but I feel like that was a little bit lucky. But I have won a challenge on a homebrew, but it's not the norm, is what I'm trying to get at in Pauper. And you have to just play a Q-net of some sort. So sort of my last resort was playing Burn Man's Familiars deck. What I found with that archetype is that it was similar to Tron, in that you're still trying to lock people out with Ephemerate and Flicker. But you also have a combo, which is nice because it lets you at least race some of the faster decks. The issue is that your only acceleration is Sunset Familiars, and if your opponent kills that, sometimes you're a little too slow, you're a little too clunky, and then you die. So, with all of that, being said, what happened, right? I've been talking about my preparation, the fact that I basically figured out what most of the metagames are going to be. I tried pretty much the entire format. Where am I at? Well, I'm going to be honest. When I was trying to be hyper competitive, I stopped having fun. And I realized that Pauper, for the most part, is kind of stalled if you're trying to play hyper competitively. And sure, I can register try tomorrow and not really do anything interesting. And if I wanted to show the gameplay after the fact, I'm not going to be recording it live, but if I wanted to show the gameplay, I wouldn't have a lot to say. And in my opinion, it would be rather boring, rather stale. And I just wouldn't have a fun time. And, I mean, maybe I'm the only one here, but when I was playing the top decks, Tron, whatever, if I won, I didn't really feel like I earned anything. I was just like, okay, I won, that was it. And when I lost, I was like, well, I lost, okay, that's it. And I never really felt any enjoyment, and that's part of why I got burned out, was that the games just feel very scripted, and if you know what you're doing, it just ought to play out, and whatever happens, happens. But there weren't a ton of interesting decision trees. A lot of it just felt very scripted. And I was playing a lot of Pauper. Like, a lot of Pauper. I mean, you look at my, I don't know if it's in a load, I'm actually online, loves to lag a little bit. But, if you look at my constructed, rankings, I was in the top 5 for a while, if you look at the Pauper League. I was, here I am, I'm 15 trophies, and at one point I was in the top 5, and then I kind of took a break for a while. But my last trophy was last year in 2019. I haven't done anything too crazy in 2020, but I was definitely one of the trophy leaders going in, and I've been playing a lot of Pauper, just getting ready, and I was just sort of getting burned out, and not having a ton of fun, and also like I just felt like there wasn't a best deck. I feel like that's the biggest thing. Is outside of Tron, which in my opinion is not going to be a great choice because you're going to play Tron mirrors, and the Tron mirrors are rolling dice, but there's not really a best deck. So it doesn't really matter what I play. I tried a little bit of everything, and nothing stood out to me as being ridiculous. It all felt like if I win my dice rolls and I draw well and I get lucky, I'll win the tournament. But it's difficult to hope that being a better player is going to win it for you, because everyone here is a really good player. So at a certain point, player agency doesn't really have an effect on it, it's just whoever draws a little bit better. And if that's what it's going to boil down to, in my point of view, why not just have fun and just say screw it? And that's what I'm going with. Now, you might say that's irresponsible, you should just play Tron, but Magic's a hobby. And Tron to me is boring. I don't like any of the top decks. They're a little iffy. I did like the Sanctuary decks. They were my favorite going in, but once again, Tron is still rough. I was going to play Blue-Red Mill or Blue-Red Control or whatever with Sanctuary. I thought it was pretty fun, but it's just not good against Tron, and if it's not good against Tron, you can't play it. So, that's just the bottom line. So, that was where I was at going into this tournament. I tried a little bit of everything. I tried Birdman's Familiars list, which I liked, but it still had some issues. What am I playing? Well, let's pull it up. Now, Walls is a little bit misleading. This is not Defender combo. This is a list that I had it brewed up just for fun. I've been testing it with a friend of mine here in the water, and I've been able to beat pretty much everything. So I have game against everything. If I draw well, I'll win. If I don't draw well, oh well, No pun intended, but if things go my way, I can win. If they don't go my way, oh well, better luck next time. So let's talk about this list while I organize it. So this is a combo deck that I had it brewed up, and I've just been tuning it and playing it, and I've been doing quite well overall. So let's talk about the 75 and the list, and what it's trying to do, what it's trying to accomplish, and then we'll take it from there. So, first off, we're obviously playing a familiar, right? But we're not playing Mystic Sanctuary, so how are we going to hammer kill people? Well, that is where the Utopia Scrolls and Abundant Growth and all that come into effect. I'm also going to pull up my sideboard here real quick. One thing I like about the sideboard is I actually get to play red spells. One of the issues I had with Birdman's list, which is not any of his fault, it's just the nature of the archetype, but when you play Blue-Red Familiars, you're very restricted on the colors you can play. You do not get red sideboard cards, which in my opinion is a big deal. Getting access to Electricity and Pyroblast and Gorilla Shaman and Ancient Rod is awesome. And when you're on straight blue-white, you just didn't have any access to that. So, I'm going to talk about this list, why I'm playing it, and then I'll leave it at that. Then we'll see what happens tomorrow. If I win or lose, I'm still going to talk about it. If I, get last place, it doesn't matter in my opinion. The only position that really matters in this tournament is first place, so if you don't get first, it's like, it doesn't matter. You have to win or bust, and if you don't get first, no one's going to care what you got. Although, to be fair, it's Pauper, right? I don't think many people care to begin with, but the bottom line is, it's first or bust, and this is what I'm going to be playing. So let's talk about this archetype, what it's trying to do. We're playing 18 lands, which might seem a little low, but we're also playing 4 Utopia Sprawl, so we can kind of afford to be a little light on land. We also have 4 Preordain, that's a great cantrip, and 4 Abundant Growth, that's another great cantrip. So we're kind of playing 22 lands, and we have 8 1-mana cantrips, which is very nice. So essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to counter 7 mana, and then to set up an infinite loop where we get infinite mana, and then we can kill our opponent in a variety of ways. This is a combination of 2 different lists that I played. I originally played a list with Nightscape Familiars and Arkham Astrolabe, and it was sort of like a 4-color Familiars list that did some crazy things. I also played a blue green flicker that was playing Wild Growth, and it was all in on that, but it was a little less stable, and you got blown out by a couple things too hard, so I decided to just play a list like this instead. So what this deck is basically trying to do is set up an infinite loop and then kill the opponent. So the loops basically consist of lands that tap for multiple mana, specifically multiple blue mana with Utopia Scrolls and Abundant Growth, and then having, a Summit Root Hammer and such, and then also have like a familiar or two in play. Then what you do is you have Snap plus Archaeomancer. As long as you have 2 lands that can tap for 7 mana, or familiar, or reduced, roughly, but if you can get 7 mana worth of I guess 7 mana in a loop, you can go infinite and get infinite mana. So I'm going to talk about all the different loops this deck has. So the first one is the most uncommon one, but I have done it, is that you have a forest that is enhanced with every Utopia Scroll in the deck, and then you have a Summit Root Chamber in play. You can go infinite. You will have infinite blue mana with Archaeomancer Snap, because this taps for 2 mana, and then this taps for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 7 plus 5 is, or 2 plus 5 is 7, or maybe I did the math wrong, but this taps for 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for 7 mana, and then, Archaeomancer Snap only costs 6 mana, so you can keep doing that loop over and over and over again. You net 1 mana through each iteration, you have infinite mana. From there, if you have Illustly Flicker, you can draw your entire net, and then heal them with Compulsive Research. Likewise, you can have some familiars in the mix. Now, what's nice about a familiar is it actually ramps you 2 times. It reduces Archaeomancer, and it reduces the cost of Snap. So now, if you have, say, a forest enchanted with 1 Utopia Scroll and 1 Abundant Growth, and you have a Root Chamber in play that's 1, 2, and then 3, 4. So in this case, you have a land that taps for blue-blue, and a land that taps for blue-green for 4 mana. And then the Sunscape Familiar, I have 2 of them in play. The first one nets you 2 mana, because it reduces Snap and Archaeomancer, and then the second one only nets you 1 mana, because it cannot reduce Snap any further, but it can reduce Archaeomancer a second time. So this is 4 mana from the lands, and then 3 from the Familiars, for a total of 7 mana. And in that loop, you can get infinite green mana. But the hitter is, if you have a Prophetic Prism in play, and you have a Flicker, it doesn't matter if you have infinite green mana. You can keep filtering green mana into blue mana with the Prophetic Prism, and then Flicker, Illustly Flicker, Archaeomancer, and Prophetic Prism, and just keep drawing your entire library. So, eventually you can just find another Utopia Scroll, and then you just have infinite blue mana outright. So that's sort of the gist of what this deck is trying to do. Another loop is that you have a land encounter with 2 Utopia Scrolls and 1 Familiar in play, and a Civic Rope Chamber in play, and an Archaeomancer on board. That's another way to go infinite. There's tons of different little loops like that. I was playing Metamorphose way back in some of the older versions. That was a way to get infinite mana. And there were just a ton of ways to go off, and it's really fun. But what I've done with this list is I've sort of modified it to be about as streamlined as possible, while also having the necessary interaction. One of the things that I liked about Birdman's list is that you had access to counter spells in the main, which helped protect you from familiars, but also helped protect you from counter spells when going off. And so in this list, what I'm doing is I have the 4 Abundant Growth, 4 Preordain, 4 Utopia Scroll. I don't really feel like those are going anywhere. But the other thing I've done is I have 4 Moldifer, 3 Compulsive Research. I couldn't get the 4th one in, but 3 is still plenty enough. And you're able to just draw a ton of cards with that, and having 7 just hard draw spells like that is a big deal. And what's also nice is you have the Abundant Growth that hand trips, the Prisms that hand trips, the Preordains that hand trip. You have, roughly speaking, you have 18 cards that let you just draw more cards and, go through the deck. And you have a Moldifer with a Snap that nets you more mana. You have Ghostly Flickers on Prisms that nets you more mana and draws you cards. There's lots of ways to just keep going. And what's nice about it is that you're a lot more explosive. You can kill, I believe, as early as turn 3 or turn 4. Turn 3 might be possible, but it's like the nut draw. But I know you can heal turn 4, and I know you can heal turn 5 and turn 6. So you can heal pretty early, and you're way more explosive, and also you have the interaction that Birdman's list has. You have the Moment's Piece for the Arrestiveness. In his case, he had Stonehorns in the main, but you also have some Prohibit as a countermatch it. And this list draws way more cards than Birdman's list does, and it's way more explosive. So it has a lot of good things going for it, and also it runs sideboard cards. One of the things I really like about it is Reaping the Graves. That just lets you fight through all the hate. I've had games like just Assless EOT getting that like 3 Familiars, 3 Moldicers, like 2 Archaeomancers, and my opponent just skews because they know I'm just going to assemble it and eventually kill them. And the other nice part is that because you have Utopia Sprawl, you get pretty early ramp. I've had games like turn 1 Sprawl, turn 2 Prism, Abundant Growth, turn 3 Moundsland, Familiar, hold up counter spells or whatever, and just do some crazy things. And I mean, you can go off pretty quickly, and you still have the nice interaction. The other part is you get nice sideboard hate. So in this case, I'm playing 3 Hydro, 3 Hydro, pretty standard. I also have a couple of really shamans for affinity, a couple of that trickery for elves, more moments piece for the aggressive nets, an ancient rush to deal with relic, weather the storm for burn, and some nice life gain, and then it rouse is a nice catch-all. And I mean, it's really, really fun. And I'm gonna just kind of show it in action real quick. And then I'm going to just enter the tournament and we'll see what happens. But win or lose, I mean, I want to have fun, and I would much rather just enjoy myself than, play something where it's like, it's kind of stale and I'm just not going to feel like I'm doing anything impactful. I feel like one of the main benefits of playing this list is it can combo kill quickly, so it can be aggressive, but it can also just hack people off guard, they're not going to know what I'm doing. So in this case, this is a bit of a slower hand. If I were playing against, let's say, an aggressive matchup, this might be a heat because I have a Moment's Piece in hand. But if I wasn't, then it might be a mulligan. So here, what I would probably do is, I would lead off with a Moldifer, just emote it, and then let it die. And then, in this case, we have to just earn something. Maybe I can just earn a Moment's Piece. But now what I can do is I can say, okay, I'm an Abundant Growth, an Island. Now it taps for white mana. And then I can play out, say, a Sunscape Familiar. And now I'm going to start netting a little bit of mana. So, for example, if I have creatures my opponent has in play, I can start snapping them and then start going off. And this is kind of difficult to display how good Snap can be in this state. So I'm just going to say I'll get rid of 2 cards, maybe like a Prohibit and a Snap, because their use is a little limited here, unfortunately. But, like, the next turn, assuming my opponent didn't have any, like, substantial interaction, which even then I feel like I would be able to deal with it here, I can just start going off. So here what I would do is, like, I would emote a Moldifer. And then, like, let's say I'm playing against a linear net of some sort, I can emote a Moldifer and then bounce it. And then just keep doing this, and now I'm getting green mana through each loop. I also have another moment speed, which is a big deal, because that allows me to buy time in some of the more linear decks. Then here I can, actually, I think I have Flicker, right? Yeah, I think Flicker's the call. Then I can snap here, or Preordain here. See another Preordain, I'll take that. See Utopia Sprawl, I will also take that. Playing this maybe blue. And now, if I have a Prophetic Prism, I'd go infinite, but I don't. So what I would do is I would pass, maybe flash back a moment speed or whatever, do what I have to do. If I was afraid of interaction, I might just not, I might not cast the Preordain, and I might just hold it Prohibit. Really, it's kind of difficult to go face this type of deck. But now I basically have infinite mana, I believe, or close to it. We'll see. Depends on what I hit here, but I believe if I draw a Prophetic Prism or a Bounce Land, I win. But, let's see. I want to double check, actually. I'm not going to play a land yet, but, so what I would do is, no, actually, no, this is infinite. Yeah, I have infinite mana. Sorry, I missed it. There's so many ways to go infinite, but, this costs 2 mana. Yeah, you don't actually need a bounce land here because I have 2 lands that produce 4 blue mana. So what I would do is this would cost 2 mana, and then Snap costs 1, and I'm getting a blue mana through each iteration. So then I Ghostly Flicker would just combo kill and they're dead. So, yeah, and you can kind of see, like, Magic Online is lagging for some reason. I honestly don't know why, but with OBS, it loves to do that. It doesn't happen with other things, but with Magic Online, that's just how it is. But you can see I had like a turn, I think turn 7 kill. Might have been faster if I also snapped things from my opponent. Depending on the matchup, this might be a heat, but I think I'm going to mulligan. And yeah, this hand's great. I'm going to bottom probably the snap, just because, oh, well, yes, I do another snap anyways. But I'm going to play an Abundant Growth, naming blue. If I draw an untapped land, I can Impulsive on turn 2. I did not, but that's alright. I'm going to fetch in an island. We don't play Brainstorm, so sitting is actually important, because when you're going off, you want to make sure your net is as small as possible, because that way you can draw more cards and keep going off. Because I want to hit a land, I would likely just emote a Moldifer and then hope to start hitting lands. It's not great for Impulsive when you need a land drop, because then you might have to discard the land, and that's not always ideal. So here, if I was playing instant creature net, what I can do is I could say, alright, I'm going to snap your card, and then untap it and hard cast a Moldifer, which in certain matchups is actually a big deal. Once again, though, it's difficult to demonstrate this because I'm in a one-on-one match where it's just me and no one else. Or it's not one-on-one, it's a solitaire, but you get the idea. Once again, I can do more silly things with snap here, but I can't really demonstrate it. Here I'll just say 2 cards, just because we're gold fishing. And then next turn they should be dead, I believe, might draw familiar. No, it's not an guarantee, but they're likely to be dead. So, here... Actually, no, I should... I'm gonna tap the white just to open up the possibility of drawing a familiar. I did not, so I'm gonna say land, this one, play this one. I mean, you can just see I'm drawing a boatload of cards, and with snaps I'm generating mana along the way. It'd be pretty disgusting. I'm just gonna discard this and prohibit because I can't really use it. But if I have a familiar at any point, they win. But what's nice is like I don't actually need the familiar to keep playing. I can just sort of draw cards and stay ahead. I guess actually I should once again open up the possibility of drawing a familiar. So I'm going to go like this. 1, 2, 3. We're going to draw 2. And then I could snap here, so I guess I might as well. Because that gives me still the option of drawing a familiar. I did not. I'm also, fun fact, another Utopia Sprawl is also lethal as well. So I'm going to play that out. Okay, so now they're dead. What's nice too is I have Reaping at range, so if they start stopping all my stuff, I can Reaping everything back and have a giant turn. But you can kind of see, right? In 1v1, it's a little difficult to demonstrate the power of this deck, but we're killing people like turn 6, turn 7, turn 5 in most of our games. And we're just drawing a ton of cards along the way. One of the nut draws is like if your opponent can interact with you early on and you go like Utopia Scroll familiar and you just start having card draw spells, it's like really ridiculous. And like this is one of my favorite types of draws, so you just kind of get to set up everything and your opponent doesn't really get to interact with it profitably. So here what I can do is I can play that out and then play Utopia Scroll, naming blue, and then I get to preordain. I'm going to bottom the land, but I think the Archaeomancer might be useful. And then this turn, what I can do is I can just, Prophetic Prism, and then I can play Abundant Growth right here. And then I can play a Bounce Land, like so. Once again, if my opponent had creatures, I can snap to net mana, but at any rate, I can play out an island, impulse myself with prohibit backup, discard, say, a land, play a prism. Once again, if I had snap, I could start doing some things, but or my opponent had creatures rather, I can start doing things with snap. And then at this point, we're pretty close to infinite. Once again, it's difficult to demonstrate what I could do, but for starters, the likely decision here would be snap a creature an opponent controls, and then play Archaeomancer, getting back Impulsive Research. And then I would probably be able to cast Impulsive Research on that turn, drawing more cards, and then I'd actually just combo kill them. As currently I have a combo, so that would have been potentially a turn 4 combo, depending on the board state. Is what I would have done if I'd have to double check and rewatch this, but what I probably could have done is like snap their guy, and then gain some more mana, play Archaeomancer, and then snap or have Impulsive Research, find Utopia Scroll, and then snap my own Archaeomancer, and then or maybe it's their creature, right? If I don't have the mana to play it or whatever, but snap another thing, and then play Utopia Scroll on my forest, and then flicker on Archaeomancer Prophetic Prism, get back a snap from the graveyard, and then just generate a ton of mana, and then flicker on Prism, Archaeomancer, start drawing more cards, and go off from there. Now, this might seem like I could time out doing this, but this loop, in my opinion, is way easier to go through. I have a lot of experience with it, and I'm much more comfortable with it, because it's just, you're doing one thing. It's not like the Miss Sanctuary loop where you have to, like, stat creatures properly, and if you miss-stat it, you can lose the game. It's, like, not nearly as intense as that, which I like. But, yeah, here they're just dead. I believe this is what, 1, 2... Yeah, I guess this is turn 6 kill, but it might have been faster if I also start doing snap things. But, that's pretty reasonable, and even if people have interaction, like, we just draw so many cards, and then we can set up a Reaping the Graves, and, if you think they might have Graveyard Hate, you can play around it and be cautious. But, this is the net that I'm going to be playing. So I'm going to enter this tournament now, because I might as well. Let's do it. Pauper Format Championship. We're going to enter with Walls F. I don't know why I named it that, but cards and Walls F will be locked in this event. Yeah, let's join. And now we are in. And if I find the event and I see my net, this is what we're going to be playing. 5-color fun. And, even if I don't win, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to enjoy the games. And for me personally, that's all that matters. And I think I might be able to catch people off guard. But I think the net is pretty powerful. I've been able to beat pretty much everything in the format with it. So, if things go my way, I might be able to take it down. And if I don't, that's alright. I had fun. And I feel like that's the best thing I can do, is just stop trying to be, play a tier 1 net. I mean, there's just nothing that's going to beat everything, so I might as well have fun. So yeah, I'm going to enter with this, and I'll see you guys next time when I have a follow-up. So yeah, bye.